exposed to hackers gaining access to that intimate information. I think in the future, however, we see a lot of large corporate hacks, and we will continue to see that. But I think the greatest danger facing the world of cybersecurity is the Internet of Things. It is exploding, it's blossoming into every area of our lives, from our CCTV cameras to our thermostats that control the temperature in our homes, to our automobiles. And these companies that are creating this Internet of Things, refrigerator manufacturers know everything there is to know about refrigerators, but they know absolutely nothing about cybersecurity. So when they come out with a new internet-connected product, they usually use off-the-shelf material, off-the-shelf software, which is easily accessible to the world's hackers. And we have to educate these companies, because there will be a huge liability at some point. If the thermostat manufacturer has a problem and the world's thermostats are hacked, and people start losing money, information, personal information, and then there'll be a great liability for the company that produced that product, and I think there'll be lawsuits, thousands of lawsuits. And hopefully it will correct itself. But right now, the Internet of Things is the main problem in cybersecurity. And none of us know how to address it the way it stands now, with these products that are so easily hacked. A few months ago, we had CCTV cameras hacked around the world. These are things which are seldom checked, difficult to access and fix. And it was a very trivial piece of software that infected these devices. I expect to see far more in the future.
What do you expect the challenge to be as it relates to, in particular, the Equifax breach? It seems it was vectored through the Apache open source software. It was not updated correctly. A number of stories out there indicate that Fortune 100 companies have a very difficult time patching correctly. Do you have any suggestions for some of the executives in the audience here, or best practices relating to that?
Well, if it were me, I would have a special team that did nothing but scour the dark web, looking for information on what the holes are that people are using. That's number one. Number two, I've been in software my entire life. It is impossible to put out a complex, sophisticated piece of software without holes. It just is not possible. We are human beings and we make errors. And these errors are what the hackers use to access, enter, and take control of our systems. And this problem is a difficult problem to fix. Even if your software was completely updated, there are thousands of 0 days out there that are known to hackers and will be used. We need a new paradigm. We need a new paradigm of not looking for the malware, but looking for the presence of hackers. Because when a hacker enters your system, he doesn't immediately walk off with all of your data. It takes weeks or months to navigate your system to find out where the information is that they want. So if a hacker comes in, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to ping every device on your network. Well, nothing does that. And yet it's an easy thing to detect. My own company, MGT, is working on a product, and we'll be releasing it shortly, called Sentinel, which does just that. It looks for the presence of the hacker. We could care less about what it is they're trying to do. We know that they're in the system and they're trying to find the information. And whatever technique they're using, we can stop if we can stop the access to the hacker, which is very easy. So we need a new paradigm. We need a new approach to cybersecurity that does not involve antivirus software, because that no longer works. Does not involve anything relating to what the defects in our software are, but rather how do we detect that first presence of the hacker? Because hackers act in anomalous ways. They come in, they sniff every device, they access every device to see what's on there. Then they may access your honeypots. So we need to approach it from that angle, the human angle, that the hacker has to act in specific ways in order to hack your system and take your data. So this is my suggestion, start thinking outside the box. Have yourself a team monitoring the dark web and find out what hackers are doing. Because you can pretend to be a hacker if you're hanging around the dark web long enough, and you can get into these forums, and you can learn a lot. But I don't know any company that's actually doing that. If you have an enemy, you want to know everything you can about that enemy. And it seems like the corporations want to know as little as possible, and instead build their defenses, not knowing what their enemy is going to do or how they're going to act. And there's the problem.
Thank you, John. Recently, you've entered the blockchain and Bitcoin space. Could you please just speak to what kind of impact you're expecting for specifically cybersecurity as it relates to either a decentralized web or the underlying technology opportunity with blockchain?
Well, here's the view. I think that the blockchain is going to become part of every aspect of cybersecurity. Because what is the fundamental problem? The fundamental problem is you cannot verify the identity of someone accessing your system. But the blockchain guarantees that the sender and receiver of any packet of information is known, is someone that you trust. When the blockchain is applied to cybersecurity, hackers are going to find an extremely difficult time trying to get into your system to begin with. So I think this is the fundamental value of the blockchain as relating to cybersecurity, the absolute identity. So how can a hacker then get in with the blockchain as the basis of your protected mechanism?
Thank you very much. We have a lot of entrepreneurs in the audience at this time. Any suggestions for areas they may be working on as it relates to cybersecurity or any particular industry for which you see a significant delta or opportunity for a new founder or startup?
Well, if you have real entrepreneurs in your audience, I would say do what you love, number one. I mean, what is it that turns you on? Because you always be successful if you do that. Barring that, I believe the Internet of Things and the blockchain applied to the Internet of Things is going to be the massive growth area in cybersecurity. So bone up on your blockchain, bone up on how the blockchain can be applied to cybersecurity and how it can be used to limit the access that hackers now have.
Recently, there is a note as it relates to the blocking of the Kaspersky relationship. I'm just curious, what are your thoughts as it relates to government-sponsored cybersecurity initiatives, and how do we go about proving the integrity of solutions like Kaspersky as it may be in, say, a geopolitical turmoil or something along those lines?
You know, that's a very difficult question. Kaspersky was one of my greatest competitors, and I admire him greatly. But fundamentally, Kaspersky is focused on the old paradigm of antivirus software, and that simply does not work anymore. As to government-sponsored cybersecurity measures, I do not know any government-sponsored program which is functional and effective. I'm sorry to say that, but governments are bureaucratized. They're massive bureaucracies that are fixed in their movements and in their thinking. If we have solutions that are going to work, they're going to have to come from the small entrepreneur, someone with a brand new idea that the government bureaucracy cannot grasp, and yet will prove effective. So I have no faith whatsoever in government-sponsored programs, whether they be cybersecurity or agriculture.
I know we have a lot of very interested parties in the audience, so John, any last words before I hand it over for Q&A?
You're all on a difficult road. You will face all kinds of obstacles, mostly from governments, as governments begin to panic about how to collect revenues in a world where you cannot tell where money is flowing from or to. The banks, the Fed, these things are all at risk. And when powerful entities like governments feel that they are at risk, they react sometimes in massive and irrational ways. But the cryptocurrency world was like Pandora's box. It has been opened. It will never be put back in and sent away. It is too convenient. It is too perfect. It gives too much power to the individual. And we all want that. We all would like to have our lives back. So you're going to be facing these things, and do not be dismayed or put aside by whatever governments will do. It is temporary, it will pass, and we will come out the other end perfectly.
Thank you, John. Anyone from the audience, please raise your hand if you have a question for Mr. McAfee. No questions. All right. I have a question for you. As you've seen the disparity between, say, a token, for example, Bitcoin, versus a utility token, something like Ethereum, what is your take as it relates to how regulators are viewing and assessing the actual technology? Is it a very accurate understanding? And in other words, the outcome of the ICO ban, what does that mean for the rest of the world, and will startups continue doing ICOs?
Well, I don't think it means much, actually, for the rest of the world. You know, India is the world's second largest market, second largest population. And they've taken a completely different approach. They have embraced the blockchain. They have embraced cryptocurrencies. They have embraced exchanges. They have embraced Bitcoin. So, you know, you can initiate an ICO from any country. You can incorporate in Switzerland. You can incorporate in Bangladesh. You can incorporate wherever you choose, and then still do your ICO. Now the question is it legal for Chinese citizens to buy the coin after the ICO? I mean, it's legal for them to buy Ethereum now and Bitcoin. So I'm not sure what that regulation actually does. I know it has panicked the market. That's obvious from the price of Bitcoin. But has it had any real impact? No, I don't think so. It's not going to stop ICOs or slow the initiation of ICOs. It's not going to stop the trading of alternative currencies. It's merely something that has frightened the world, because China, the world's largest population, has now banned ICOs. And I think that will change. I think that China will come back with a set of very sane and practical regulations that everyone must abide by if they do ICOs. But that's my personal opinion.
Thank you. Another question as it relates to the early days when you started your first company. I would love to understand, and if you could share maybe any pointers as it related to how you first scaled or difficult decisions you may have made, such that some of the entrepreneurs in the audience could learn.
Well, when I started McAfee, it was unknown territory. The world had never seen a computer virus prior to 1987, and the first virus was actually a program written in Pakistan by two brothers that owned a computer shop. No one had ever heard of the concept of a program able to replicate itself and move from one computer to another. It was a scary concept. It just fascinated me. And when I saw how they did it, I go, that's brilliant. But at the same time, I saw how you could stop it, or at least identify it, or control it. And so I wrote a little program, put it up. We didn't have the internet back then. We had things called bulletin board systems. I had one of the largest in Silicon Valley, 32 phone lines coming into one computer. I could only have 32 people online at once. But if I put a piece of software on my bulletin board, it could be downloaded by these people who then uploaded it to other bulletin boards around the world. Much slower than the internet, but just as effective. And so that piece of software was in millions of hands within a matter of days. And the rest was history. I realized that this was going to be a serious problem. That if someone could write one virus, they could write another. And that's exactly what happened. 2 weeks later, a virus called the Jerusalem virus entered the scene. And I added that virus to my software so it could be detected and dealt with. So it's a difficult decision. I mean, if you're caught up in something real, your decisions are not difficult. You just do what you have to do.
Thank you, John. One last chance for the audience to ask questions to Mr. McAfee. Anybody? We've got a question back there.
Hey, John. What's your position on ICOs and regulation? Do you think there should be any regulation around them?
Oh, absolutely. And here's why. As with any new technology.
Oh. You can speak that part, right?
It seems like we have other people listening on this call.
It happens.